everyone, welcome to our online class for the day. As I said, this week we're going to talk a lot more about images online and start working in Photoshop. So I really wanted us to take a few minutes to think about how images are used online, how we can better use images online, whether it's a header image, whether it's how we structure our buttons with blocks of colors, to even separate images for navigation, for interest appeal. So the biggest thing I want to encourage you to think about is a lot of this is about visual stereotelling. It's not about the like, it's about the conversation. We really need to think about what images we put on, because the more relevant the images are, the more likely people are to look at the site, to share the site, and to engage in the message that we're trying to get across. So articles with relevant images are going to have 94% more views than those without. So what that shows you is images are processed 60,000 times faster than text. We learn to understand images long before we learn to understand text as children. So we are a very visual society, and it's important that the images we choose online really convey the message we're trying to create. And by images, I don't just mean a photo of a cow. I mean the actual header you use, the graphic lines you use, the colors you used. All of those come to develop that image and that themed image. We must remember that Google can't see pictures or videos. So as we are trying to engage people, we also have to think about how we put images in. And we'll look at that a little more in depth, but we've talked about already a little bit the idea of alternate text on photos. If you ever take your cursor and set it up on something online, right by your mouse, you might see a little pop-up window that gives you text. That text is there in case somebody can't read can't see. It allows screen readers to read that text. It also allows Google to read that photo and help with search functions. So there's some little things that we have to think about as we pick these photos in terms of the text that go with these images. Facebook, with an image, 327,000 shares, likes, comments. No image, 164. We need to have images with our content, whether it's our stories, our pages. When we talk about social media, images become really important. So I want us to look a little bit, what can images be used as? And we've seen this site before in terms of layout, but notice there's an image for this background of the header. There's a logo image. There's an image here sort of giving you the message of, they're saying protection to soothe and promote healing in your dry, cracked, chapped skin. So, they're talking about dry, chapped skin. They've got dry wood with cracks in it. They've got hands close up. Imagery that's really going to take your message to that next level. Having images of products. We want sharp, clear imagery. We want bright photos really focused in on things. And again, use images as, graphical elements on your page to frame your page. We'll also see where people use icons to show things. Their logo is this bee. They've got that icon there as well. Example of website really taking advantage of images. Huge logo, huge graphic foreground image, and we talked about how single image sites are very popular right now. You notice this image isn't just the text and the color. There's a wood background to it. There's a graphic element to go along with that. The one thing I would critique this website is notice this header is quite large. So on a tablet or a phone, that might be a little too big. Here is, this is a company that actually does web design, and I would say that some of their web design is really good. Some of it I would be concerned about how large some of their headers are. They tend to do large headers, but that's sort of the feel that a lot of livestock websites go for, and that's what this company does a lot of. But I really liked their sample page here with a nice clean graphic header, using that theme of Western sort of stitched leather. Same thing around their main photo, using text on the photo to add more to the message, keeping a patterned background beyond just that header, footer. Real clean colors that go together. But notice how the imagery sort of accentuates the way the page looks. Another example, this is a Shopify theme site. So this is a website for website themes and templates. But notice how great little icon elements to help build that message, showing examples of what they're talking about, using lines to break things up, and a consistent sort of feel and color to the images they've used. So they've got this image of a golfer, Shopify themes to rock your online store. Sort of this golfer shooting something across this thing, the tee. Now what I would say though is this is hard to tell what that photo is about based on where the text lays. So, and the effects done. So make sure that if you're going to use an image, it's there for a purpose, people can really see it. This is an example from the Ranch House Designs website I showed just a second ago. This example when I said their headers can be too big. I had to really shrink this website down to fit here for you to see the full page. This header here is huge, and with the navigation. You don't want something that big that's going to take up your whole page. However, beyond that, I would say it is nice if they had taken this little image out here, moved it somewhere else, and shrunk up some of this text. I think it would have been a nice feel to the. It's a nice logo, nice color scheme, nice how this sort of underneath this grocery and tackle sort of fits into the photos. I did want to show you what a photo background can do. If you don't have a photo background that's going to be big enough for your whole content, it will tile like this. So zoomed out in order to see this page, I then get this sort of effect that we may not necessarily want. But great use of the text. This is way too much text for a home page. However, nice uses of images. We know what the place looks like. We know inside, sort of gives us a feel. And again, they have that logo down there, so it doesn't necessarily need to be up there as well. But nice little use of graphics to go along with the logos. Typically, originally with web design, what we would do is we would create our website in Photoshop. We'd go in and we would slice it up and pull it into Dreamweaver or our web builder. Dreamweaver or our web builder, and we would put it basically in a table all sliced up. The problem with that is if somebody has slower speed, or even as I was pulling these up at home on my home computer, these would take a while to come up, even though I'm on a high-speed network. So what I want to challenge you is to think beyond doing your whole website as one image. Those of you who are in 2511 right now, that's sort of the method they go with. But again, for the audiences that we reach in agriculture, not the best method, because images take too long to download. Think about somebody on a cell phone with bad service. How long is it going to take for that photo website to come up? So we really want to balance photos with text and graphical elements. So this is an example of it was taking a long time for this image to load, all of these images. Also, I wanted to show you again this idea of sort of this layering of the photo. And if you scroll down, look down here, you can see that the content was still happening, so you had to be scrolled out this much to see it. But again, another great example of the header being way too big. This is a nice clean site that's using images to really make the message stand out. They're trying to sell cupcakes. They're showing their cupcakes large. They're giving you a fun effect with this confetti. The colors are nice and clean. The header is not too terribly big, but is a little big. This is a template, so you have an insert here photo. But, cupcake of the day. Using images, I don't want you to just think it has to be a photo of something. It can be a photo cut out. It can be a graphic when we talk about images on your site. It can be lines. It can be stripes. Think about how you can use images. Great photo if you're trying to talk about a business leaping you into another realm. Picking an image that's really going to take and make that message is important. Here's an example of a website that's using, and these are all these are template type websites that I wanted to show you, but notice how they're using an image, sort of a swishing type image that sort of ties the page together. These could almost fit within each other, but then they've got images that pop out and sort of pop at you using some drop shadowing, framing, thinking about having a photo gallery of some sort on your page to share. You easily could use one of your pages as a photo gallery for your website. So if the issue that you're working with lends itself to having images in a photo gallery, by all means do something with that. But having good, clean, crisp, colorful photos. Another example, this is an elementary school type website. So if you notice the theme of the images, the graphics that they're using aren't necessarily, they're fun, they're lighthearted, they're for an elementary school. So you have to think of your audience. Just as you would think of your audience with the text we're using and the layouts, think of your audience with the actual images we're using. They've sort of got a paper feel down here, they've got a pin taking you to something, sort of ties in that elementary feel, clouds and trees, innocent, childlike look. Little ribbons like this are very popular on websites right now. Very popular. This is a website using a background. It's all right. It's a little hard to read. This logo almost gets lost in this much of a textured background, as well as these icons sort of get lost. They almost need to be bigger, but nice graphic element here with the photo, bringing people in to the site. Images provide. Images are going to give you stories. They're going to give you credibility on your site. Like I said, we're in an image-based society. Images help tell that story, and you really want to figure out what stories you want to tell on your site. As I said, you're going to have an assignment that's due to me on Tuesday. And there's going to be two parts to that assignment that I want you to send me by Tuesday evening. I want you to send me the first part of that assignment. I want you to send me a link to a website that you think uses images really well to tell their story, really well to add credibility to their site. So whether it's adding to the stories of the page or the graphical elements, send me a link to a website that really does a good job using images to tell that story and use that credibility. The other thing I want to share with you is when we're talking about images online, we're not just talking about our website, we're talking about social media as well. When we get into social media, we'll bring this back up. But when we pick photos for our website, we really want to pick photos that are going to be shareable. So bloggers, pinners, tweeters, anybody who's going to be sharing information online would want to grab your photo and use it as an example with their post. So having a good image for somebody to tag to is really important. And when we think about that, adding some text on photos sometimes can be very helpful, especially with a pin or something like that, where if this is already there for them, they're more likely to say, oh, I can pin that because I can take people to that text, or I can tweet that photo because it's already got that information on it. They just can then go to that text. So if you have a product line, having that product line with your logo on it really aids in that sort of pinning to win it attitude with your website. So really think about not only what the images are, but how can you set them up for success in that sharing world. We talked a little bit about browser safe colors, and this comes into play very much so when we think about images. So, typically with browsers, there were only 216 safe browser colors. Now a lot of people have their phones, their computers set to unlimited colors, but web colors are still seen as sort of being limited, even though most browsers can show millions of colors now. You're still going to see this idea of the browser safe palette colors. And that's also why we see that hexadecimal number I told you about, sort of that 6-digit number. This color here is 3366FF. This number here is CC33FF. You're going to see there tend to be F's, C's, E's. It's a very limited alphabetical number or alphabetical letter, but then the range of numbers. I showed you sort of the color scheme designer a couple weeks ago. They're linked on our class website. Those, if you go into those and click, you can easily find those colors. Also, Photoshop will show you what those hexadecimal colors just as much as it will show you the RGB numbers or the CMYK numbers if you were working with print. So we need to think about what those colors. The other thing we need to think about is, as we pick photos for our websites, we really don't want more than 3 to 4 large photos per page. We talked about design, you want to have a focal point, so we don't want to go too crazy with photos. We also want to make sure that the photos are in a resolution that's going to be easy to download for somebody as they're viewing it on their phone. We've all heard of GIF, JPEG, and PNG, and I wanted to show you this great sort of infograph. Let me pull this over so we can see this a little bit better. Great infograph of the difference between a GIF, a JPEG, and a PNG. GIF is graphic interchange format. Your JPEG is your joint photographic experts group, and then PNG, portable network graphics. These are the things that we see used online. You don't see TIFFs, you don't see EPS. These are what browsers read. And this is where max supported colors. GIFs only support 256 colors, so GIFs tend to be a lot more fuzzier if it's got a lot of shading with colors, where JPEGs and PNGs can show a lot more colors. However, GIFs are the only ones that support transparent backgrounds. So if you want something to be transparent in terms of text, GIFs are normally the one that you want to have. Now, PNGs can support transparency, but it's only between, you have to decide what %. GIFs can be animated. Sometimes we'll see animation. GIFs and PNG are lossless, meaning that no information is lost when they're compressed. However, JPEGs lose a little information every time they are compressed and saved as a JPEG. Again, quality of colors. JPEG gives you 100%. PNGs can give you more of a grayscale true color. So when do you use which one? GIFs are for clip art, they're for logos, buttons, and animated clip art. JPEG is when you use photographics. Photos are the best use for JPEGs. You can save a photo as a PNG, but the PNG is going to be a larger file size than a JPEG. So if it's a photo with texture, with shading, lots of different colors, gradients, we want to use a JPEG. Okay, so general rules of thumb. I love this infographic. GIF, images with text, with simple shapes and colors, blocks of solid color. JPEG, photorealistic, image of color gradients. PNG, photos where you don't need to keep the file size small. Best for transparent images and sort of that non-lossy. Okay, some other differences here. nothing that as important as thinking about that difference between JPEGs, GIFs, and PNGs, okay? The other reason I wanted to show you this image is this is a great example of an infographic, giving us information about a topic that is important. So you're going to have to create an infographic with your website. And that's a great example of what a good infographic will do. You're going to need to create an infographic for class. We're going to be working on Photoshop, and so your part 2 of your assignment is to show me a great infographic that you really like, that you might be able to pull ideas from when you create your own. So not only are images online, photos, text, headlines, some of them are infographics. And part of your Photoshop, we're going to be working on creating this infographic. So I want you to think about with an infographic, and we can talk more about this next week as well when we really start working on these in class, but you're going to focus on the storyline. What do you want to say? Think about who is the audience. How simple does the text need to be? How simple or complex do the images need to be? Infographics, you don't want a lot of text, and you don't want to make them so long that you have to scroll forever. If you notice that GIF, JPEG, PNG one, I had to scroll a long time. We also want to think about good data and citations. The reason I'm having you do an issue is because I want you to be able to go and look for a good message, look for data and citations that you can use. And then carefully choose those colors and the design that are going to go with your message. If it's an infographic dealing with something that's not happy and cheerful, you're probably not going to want to have bright, colorful colors. Okay, you might want to dull down colors. So these are some great examples of infographics using great little icons, lots short blurbs of text, sort of telling a story. Now this is only part of this. I had to crop this a little bit, but it sort of took you through a path. Did you know 18 hours of time are spent online a week, 77% smartphones, 71% users, or 77 in a business, 71 saw an ad, 33% use their phone while watching TV. You know, great examples using graphics to tell your story, to show your facts. So it's not just giving us blurbs of text. Great one about food prices. You know, these don't have to be huge, images. Taking a piece of corn and splitting up and giving us the different reasons food prices are the way they are. Sort of gives us that graphical distribution of why that issue is the way it is. And then little bits of text to explain some of that. A lot of these little graphics we can easily find on sites like basic free image things. There's the Noun Project has lots of little graphics like this that you can get for free. If you know how to use Illustrator, you can create some of these on your own even. This is, I apologize, this is out of order. This was another website example. So infographics, this was an example of a really long infographic talking about colors and how colors are used, but this is a nice shorter example of colors in big corporations. They're giving us an example of it, giving us text about it, using a graphical line to take us right to those colors to show us that. Example of an infographic used sort of for an ad. This is a little busy, but they're breaking it up as much as they can. I almost might say don't have such a scalloped edge because that just keeps adding to it. But one thing I will show you is you're always going to have some type of headline with your infographic, and then you're probably going to have some type of subheads with your infographic along with your images and your text. Another example here, you've got a headline. This has a headline. So another good example of, good headline, showing us proportionally things. This is showing us crude oil. Italy is showing you this huger video image, making it bigger, showing us that they're using more or whatever this infographic is about. We can sort of make inferences without even reading it, what we're going to find with that infographic. Again, so you need to send me by Tuesday those 2 items. The rest of this week we're going to look at how to use Photoshop, how to create some infographics. As you're creating these infographics and using Photoshop, I also want you to think about how can you use some of these skills to make your headers for your website, other images that you might use on your website. Great. Cassandra will be with you Tuesday and Thursday working on Photoshop, and I will see you guys next week.